Axios has learned that Fox News sent a cease-and-desist letter to Tucker Carlson amid the launch of his new Twitter show, which has now garnered over 169 million views on the platform after airing its first 2 episodes.
Fox is continuing to pay their former top host and maintains that Carlson's contract keeps his content exclusive to Fox through December 31st, 2024. In response, Carlson is making a First Amendment argument for posting on Twitter and asserts that Fox has committed material breaches of his contract. His lawyers say Tucker will not be silenced by anyone. So it's interesting. When his contract was drafted, I'd be really interested in the actual contract terms, because the exclusivity provisions likely don't contemplate posting long format video to Twitter, something which wasn't even really possible until relatively recent history.
How long ago did he start with them? Was it like 7, 8 years ago? It was a very different landscape on social media. You'd have to look at the exact language of what the contract covers to know that. So, it is interesting. I think Twitter is transforming into more of a direct competitor with Fox News, but the language might not have reflected that.
And even if it weren't Twitter, let's say he had a YouTube show, let's say that he joined one of these conservative outlets, TPUSA, or what's the one with the scandal over the man's divorce that we've been talking about?
Daily Wire.
The Daily Wire. Any of these shows, I think, would raise the same question for Fox News, because the spirit of the thing is obviously that they want to be the only people putting out Tucker Carlson. As long as I'm paying you millions of dollars, which they are, I want to be the only one who has access to Tucker Carlson's voice. Now, the spirit of the thing and the letter of the law are two different issues. And if they end up litigating this, that's a tough case that will have really interesting precedential value, because increasingly people are going to have the ability to go up and hang a shingle, as it were, and start their own shows without being technically a part of another organization. So how do you structure a non-compete when it's not really that a person is going to another organization that's a competitor, but that they're just speaking, which they have the ability to do as an independent actor on social media websites, which give you a similar kind of platform and access to the population that only cable networks used to have.
Yeah, on that front, the sheer numbers of people who saw the show, hundreds of millions. Now, it's not comparing apples to oranges. I read an interesting article in Mediaite about how, you have to be, how they're counting views on Twitter is basically anyone even scrolling past it, hesitating on the tweet for even like 2 seconds, that counts as a view. You could do that multiple times. It'll count as, this is not unique views. This is, if you're logged into Twitter, you scroll past it, that's going to count as a view. So while the 100 million number is still massive, you have to compare that to, the people watching like the show on Fox or on
if I'm flipping away during the commercial break and coming back, is Nielsen counting that as multiple views?
Nielsen Nielsen on the television show, Nielsen is counting like the 2 million number, whatever, watching. That's concurrent views. That's everybody watching at one time. So honestly, there could be total views is a much bigger number because they're counting what was the most number of people during this hour who were all tuned in at the same time. That's the number. So obviously it could be, maybe I'm watching earlier. I click off and then you click on, but there's more people watching when you're watching, so that's the number we're counting. But I'm not being counted in that number, even though I was watching earlier.
Yeah, it's funny when you, as a content creator, when you're doing live streams, you're very aware of that kind of maximum number. But when it's a non-live airing, it is, I don't know if they even have access to those metrics. Does Tucker Carlson know what his more real Nielsen-style number is? There is also this controversy around the actual view count number and this new metric that Elon Musk came up with, which is literally just like I put my eyes on the thing, I saw it. And so there's, tweets historically, you look at how many likes or comments they have, but there's this new metric now where it's just how many times your tweet was viewed. And those numbers have been used to kind of gin up interest and gin up the idea that a lot of people are very active on the website. So yes, it's not an apples to apples comparison, but it still is very significant. And if you're Fox News, who were hoping to be able to kind of shut Tucker up and have exclusivity over his content, this is a big problem for you.
Yeah, because he's going to fight this out too. Like they're not going to stop him from producing these videos in the time period. Like if this could get this goes to litigation. This could be a long time. Like,
but he
if
might
their
have to
goal-
give back the money. That's
maybe
the
he'll have
issue.
to give back the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he could. I don't know the terms. Maybe he could walk away right now if he doesn't take the money. But that's not what they want. They want to give him the money and have him not say anything for the duration of the time.
And also, it's worth noting that he wants it both ways too. He could clear all of this up by just saying, "I'll give up the $25 million." Is that how much it is?
$30 million.
But that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And is it worth a little Twitter show, no matter how much interest there is in it at this point, to give up $30 million?
That'd be a hard thing to do.
Well, maybe it's less hard for Tucker Carlson, but so far he definitely has been holding on to that money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you're right about the freedom created by people going independent, having this opportunity to do whatever they want on social media, to be less gate-kept by a partner organization. And I think this is going to be a real test of that. Is Tucker, who had the top spot, the top guy at Fox on the most important conservative news channel, dwarfs all the others in a kind of older media setting. Can he succeed and be just as influential on his own? Like, I saw Jimmy Dore, for instance, talking about how reacting to the Tucker news and saying this shows that, or the numbers, and saying this shows cable is dead, as dead as it could possibly be. It's over. The future is here, and the future is independent content creators on social media platforms, and they might as well be fossils. Which, bold prediction, could be the case.
I think that's a completely fair observation. Now, specifically, it seems like in a separate letter to Carlson's lawyers last week that did not expressly demand he stop posting videos on Twitter, Fox News General Counsel Bernard Guger said the former primetime host was in breach of his contract with the network. The contract signed in November of 2019 and amended in 2021 limits his ability to appear on other media outlets. Now, that's language from this NBC News article, not from the contract itself. But if that is reflective of the contract terms, this could be a really interesting conversation about what constitutes a media outlet. Does something like the Daily Wire constitute an outlet? Would TYT or Jimmy Dore constitute an outlet? If you have your own independent show, is it an independent show? If you start your own outlet, is that an outlet? Or if what Tucker Carlson is doing now, simply posting Tucker-branded content on his Twitter page, I think it's very difficult to argue that could be described as anything other than kind of independent speech.
The statement from Tucker Carlson's lawyer, Brian Friedman, who also represents Don Lemon and is involved in some of the CNN controversy we were talking about by virtue of representing someone formerly at CNN that we were talking about earlier. He put out a statement saying, doubling down on the most catastrophic programming decision in the history of the cable news industry, Fox is now demanding that Tucker Carlson be silent until after the 2024 election. Tucker will not be silenced by anyone. He is a singularly important voice on matters of public interest in our country and will remain so. Yeah,
from an optics perspective, I think Fox also has to consider whether or not it's worth continuing to tarnish itself in the eyes of some of the Tucker supporters who loved his show on Fox News by positioning themselves as anti-free speech, someone who's trying to suppress the guy. They should know better than most, being the host of all of this kind of pro-free speech, populist discourse that Tucker really was the figurehead of for so many years on Fox News, how toxic it can be to one's brand to be perceived to be a free speech hypocrite, especially now that there is this corporate news versus independent news tee-off that they didn't really have to engage with before because sure, they've always been a corporate news outlet, but because of the freedom, the latitude that Tucker Carlson had to say independent feeling things on their show, I think they were able to escape a lot of that criticism. And when conservatives have, over the course of the last few years of the Trump era, been critical of corporate media, Fox News largely seems to have been excluded from people's mental image, at least, of what we're talking about. When we're talking about the corporate media, it's CNN, it's MSNBC, it's Rachel Maddow, it's Keith Olbermann. Very rarely does anybody say Tucker Carlson, that's corporate media, even though it was true. And now that Fox has lost that insulation, to double down and now be perceived as the people that are going after Tucker Carlson now that he's escaped, could continue to hurt the ratings in the show that Tucker Carlson is no longer hosting.
All right, we'll have more Rising right after this. Stay with us.